Hello and welcome. I am Stacy Tellers, the Program Manager for the Local Government Support Team here at the Office of the Washington State Auditor. And I am excited to talk with you about government financial statements, starting with an introduction to GAAP Financial Statements. Before we get started, I'd like to focus our training. As an introductory session, I will remain focused on the main components of GAAP Financial Statements, including the basic financial statements and the annual comprehensive financial report. This means advanced topics such as a component unit reporting, segment reporting, and other unique or complex topics have been excluded. Today's session will cover common acronyms, resources available to you, the required financial statements for a GAAP government, the ACFR, known as the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and the Certificate of Achievement, or COA program, and closing comments. We live in a world of acronyms, so let's meet the acronyms you'll be seeing today. Common acronyms you'll hear in general conversation regarding GAAP financial statement are as follows. GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. These are the accounting and reporting standards accepted and followed by GAAP basis governments. ACFR, Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, which we will discuss later in this session. BFS, Basic Financial Statements, the minimum required components of a GAAP financial statement. GASB, or the GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board. The GASB establishes accounting and reporting for U.S., state, and local governments. GARS, Governmental Accounting Research System, which contains the full GAAP codification, which is the comprehensive group of standards as prescribed by the GASB. And GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. This is the U.S. and Canadian Association for Government Finance Professionals. GFOA has an award program, the COA, which is the Certificate of Achievement Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting. We will go over the program a little later. SAO is for the Office of the Washington State Auditor. Throughout this session, I also refer to SAO as our office or the office. BARS, Budgeting, Accounting, Reporting System, which is the Washington State legally required prescribed accounting and reporting for local governments and is issued by SAO. RSI, Required Supplementary Information, part of the GAAP financial statements, which we will discuss in a moment. And OPEB, Other Post-Employment Benefits, which is the accounting and reporting topics related to post-employment benefits offered to employees, such as health care. Let's discuss a few resources available to you before we begin our introduction to the financial statements. If you would like, pull up these resources so you can follow along in the resource as we discuss the components of the financial statements. The first resource is GARS. To follow along with GASB codification requirements, visit GARS by typing in the website displayed on your screen or by scanning the QR code. Feel free to pause this video and take a moment to pull the GARS website up. You will need to follow a few security prompts to get logged in. You do not need to have an account or login access to GARS. It is free to use. Once in GARS, let's get you to the codification section that you will need today so you can follow along. You're going to learn how to use GARS and also see the detailed requirements of GAAP financial statements. To find the correct section, click on Codification. Then, number 2, Financial Reporting, then 2200, Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Then use the Show All in One Page option. This option puts all applicable GASB resources for the specific topic you are selecting from the menu into a single web page. This makes searching much easier. Now that you are in the proper codification section, you can follow along in this section throughout the training. The next resource is provided by GFOA. To find the COA award information, visit GFOA by typing in the website displayed on your screen or by scanning the QR code. Again, feel free to pause this video and take a moment to pull up the GFOA website. Once you are on the awards page, scroll down until you see the following boxes. You can download the current checklist that GFOA reviewers utilize when reviewing ACFRs for the award by clicking the View Criteria box. There are currently 2 checklists. Nearly all governments will utilize the Comprehensive General Purpose Checklist. By clicking View Checklist, you will download an Excel file that contains the complete checklist of criteria. The final resource I'm going to provide you today is SAO's BARS GAAP Manual. Visit our website via the website address on the screen or using the QR code. Again, feel free to pause the video while you pull up the website. Locate the BARS and Annual Filing drop-down menu on the main page menu bar. Then click onto BARS GAAP Manual. Once in the manual, using the left side menu bar, you can navigate to the reporting section by clicking the caret or the mini arrow next to Reporting. Here you will find extensive guidance on the components of GAAP financial statements. All right, now that you have the acronyms and the resources, let's get started. First, let's discuss the required financial statements. In this section, we're going to talk about the minimum reporting requirements for GAAP financials. The minimum requirements for GAAP financial statements include the following. The section called Management's Discussion and Analysis, which is known as the MD&A, the Basic Financial Statements, and RSI, the required supplementary information other than MD&A. The information on these sections can be found in the GASB Codification 2200, paragraph 102. If you're looking at the codification, you will see a list of what is required in these specific sections. Highlights of the MD&A include the introduction of the basic financial statements and a component that I really want to talk about, which is the analysis of the financial activities of the government. We will talk about that in just a moment. The basic financial statements include 3 sections, which are the government-wide financials, the fund financials, and the notes to the financials. More on those in a moment as well. The final component is RSI, Required Supplementary Information Other than MD&A. Now, why is it called other than? That is because the MD&A is required supplementary information as well. However, that component comes before the basic financial statement, which is why the rest of the RSI is labeled as other than. When we discuss RSI, most people go right to the RSI schedules that are at the end of the financial statements, since MD&A comes first, and we generally call MD&A MD&A. Just remember that RSI does include MD&A, so being really specific does help to reduce confusion. Now that you know the specific components of the minimum required financial statements, let's go a little bit deeper into each one. The MD&A has specific requirements that can be found in GASB Codification 2200, paragraphs 106 through 109. This section precedes the basic financial statements and provides an analysis of financial activity of the government. This analysis includes comparison of current year results to prior year, and it focuses on why financial data has changed. The why is the very important part and step in the MD&A, and it includes not just the dollar amount or percentage of the change. It talks about the reason why it changed. For example, if you have a tax rate increase that increases tax revenue, the rate change discussion would talk about the specific dollar amount or specific percentage of sales, for example, that was the increase in tax. Also included in this section is analysis on the presentation of condensed financial data, as well as significant capital asset and debt activities. Let's focus on the term significant. Large projects, for example, would be discussed in this area. We would not want to discuss the payment of general debt service, but we would want to discuss the issuance of debt. So you want to think in terms of a large event or a large dollar amount to be included in the discussion portion of the MD&A. Another part of this area is the presentation of known facts and circumstances, discussions and conditions that the government has information about that may have significant effects on financial position. This could be the discussion of a new levy, a voter-approved bond, or other fiscal impacts that are known and going to happen. In the basic financial statement component of the minimum required GAAP financials, you will find the financial statements themselves. I like to call these the face of the financials. It is where the numbers are located and the notes that tell the story of those numbers. This information can be found in GASB Codification 2200, paragraph 105. Depending on the type of government you are and the activity you engage in, that will result in the type of financial statements that will be in your report. Breakdown of specific activities and in-depth discussion of the types of statements themselves is too in-depth for our introductory session today. So just know that there are different types of financial statements that can be presented. A high-level review is as follows. The government-wide financial statements includes a statement of net position and statement of activities, which reports on the consolidated financial activity of the government as a whole. The only financial information excluded from these specific statements is the fiduciary fund activity. The fund financial statements provides financial statements for each fund category separately, which includes the governmental funds, proprietary funds, and fiduciary funds. In these categories, they will each provide a balance sheet or statement of net position and a statement of changes in fund balances and net position. The proprietary fund also includes a statement of cash flows. Now, let's take a moment to talk about the notes to the financial statements. The notes to the financial statements communicate information that is essential for an understanding of the presentation of the basic financial statements. The notes are integral to the financial statements and must be presented. Again, think of the notes as the story of the numbers. They help users understand what the numbers are on the face of the financials. There is a significant list of required disclosures which can be found in GASB Codification 2300. I would like to point out that not every disclosure is required by all governments. You will only want to disclose what is applicable and appropriate to your government and your government's situation. Examples of disclosures include cash and investment notes, notes regarding capital assets, long-term liabilities, which can include information on bonds, leases, pensions, even that OPEB we've mentioned. Also, there's notes on changes in accounting or error corrections that you may have had in the year. There is one note that is absolutely required by all governments, and that is the Summary of Significant Accounting Policies, which provides a summary note of the policies that govern your accounting and reporting. The last component of the required financial statements is the RSI other than MD&A. The RSI includes schedules that provide additional information to the users of your financial statements. The component of required financial statements can be found in GASB Codification 2200, paragraphs 205 through 207. These schedules include required budgetary comparisons of the general fund and each major special revenue fund that has a legally adopted budget. Now note that I said each major special revenue fund. That is important, as other types of major funds in your fund financial statements do not require the budgetary comparison schedules to be put in RSI. Also required are schedules regarding pension and OPEB information, as well as capital asset schedules if you use the modified approach to infrastructure, which is a different approach to capital asset tracking from the historical cost and depreciation method, and it is only allowable for infrastructure assets. For more information on the modified approach, you can visit GASB Codification 1400, paragraphs 105 through 107. Now that you have an understanding of the minimum required components for GAAP financial statements, let's talk about what the ACFR is. Remember from our acronym discussion earlier that the ACFR stands for Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. An ACFR is not required. However, it is used by many governments to meet additional reporting requirements they may have, such as continuing disclosure requirements for bond issuances. As you will see, the ACFR provides a lot of extra information and details for users, which is what makes it popular for governments that do need to report additional information annually. So, what makes the ACFR different? Again, the ACFR requires additional components beyond the minimum required financial statements. These components are broken into the following sections: the introductory section, the financial section, and the statistical section. GASB Codification 2200, paragraph 105 lists all the specific requirements of the ACFR. You'll note here that the financial section includes 3 components that we have already talked about. The ACFR builds on the minimum required financial statements. Here are our 3 sections of an ACFR. Now, we could spend a lot of time breaking down each of the components within each section. However, for this session, we're going to go over the highlights of what's included in the sections. The introductory section includes a table of contents, a letter of transmittal, and other material that might be deemed appropriate by management for their users or may be required by GFOA for their award program. In the financial section, the inclusion of the auditor's report is required, followed by the minimum required financial statements that we have already talked about, and then adding to that, combining and individual fund statements, as well as other schedules if applicable. A quick highlight of the combining and individual fund statements include displaying the financial data for each individual fund that is not reported on the face of the financials, which we call non-major funds. Now, we will not go into this topic of major and non-major funds, as it is more in-depth than our introductory video. The GASB codification talks more about how to determine major and non-major funds. So for now, just know that non-major funds will require individual financial statements in the combining and individual fund statements component of the financial section in the ACFR. Now, the next section, our statistical section. There is a whole separate section in the GASB codification for this, which is section 2800. This section includes schedules that report on the following areas: 10 years of data related to financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity, as well as demographic and economic information of the government and operating information. The ACFR provides significantly more information and details about the financial activity of the government and goes above and beyond the minimum required financial reporting. Due to the additional information that can be provided, GFOA developed an awards program to encourage state and local governments to produce the ACFR. Governments can submit their ACFR to GFOA for review, and if the criteria is met, the government can receive the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This program was established in 1945, and it really does encourage governments to go beyond the minimum reporting requirements. The awards program is looking for excellence in that the government has received a clean audit opinion and has a readable report which is accurate and complete, meeting all of the GAAP requirements. The program also requires additional information to be in the ACFR that is not specifically stated in the GASB GAAP codification. The awards program checklist includes 51 pages with 17 active categories and 627 specific criteria points, and they must be met in order to win the award. Now, not all of the categories or criteria may be applicable to your government because it does depend on the activity that your government is engaged in. The reward program requires submission of the ACFR to be within 6 months after a government's fiscal year end, though GFOA may offer an extension on a limited basis for extenuating circumstances. The GFOA has additional criteria that must be met that is beyond GASB GAAP requirements. Examples of some of these additional criteria include numbering the ACFR pages, a cover page, title pages, and things like the government refraining from reporting cents throughout the ACFR. GFOA also requires the submission of a separate worksheet that provides the calculation components of the net investment in capital assets figure that is reported on the statement of net position. The government must also include organization charts and elected official information within their introductory section. Also required is a copy of the prior year's award if it was received. Also beyond the GAAP requirements are specific requirements to be included within the independent auditor's report. If you look at the criteria checklist, you'll note that they have specific financial statement titles that is preferable and how dates should be referenced, as well as requiring the financial statements to reference the notes and when that reference is appropriate. There is a requirement to refrain from referring to unaudited data in note disclosures. Individual fund data must be traceable as stated in a specific criteria question, which currently reads, are the disclosures about interfund balances and transfers formatted so that the individual fund data can be traced to the corresponding column in the basic financial statement? An example, the use of headings and subtotals. There is also a requirement to refrain from referencing notes to the financial statements in the RSI schedules. If notes are needed for RSI, the RSI should have their own separate notes. And then there is all-encompassing criteria, such as the report must be free from inconsistencies. This means that numbers should tie throughout the report. The use of fund titles should be consistent throughout the report. Activity of the government should be consistently reported, etc. For an introductory video, we have covered a lot of topics today. Please keep an eye out for further videos in which we will discuss more of these topics in depth. Thank you for taking the time today to watch the video on GAAP financial statements. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to our office by submitting a help desk, and you will be routed to one of our financial statement specialists.